Yeah, man. Like first thing first, we're both working in the same field. Like we're working with high performance individuals or people that want to become
Yeah.
high performance individuals. So, what is your definition of a high performing man?
For me, I think someone who's high performing is that they're at the top level in all areas of life. So I get a lot of people who come to me initially and they class themselves as a high performer, and I don't disagree with it, but they have a lot more room to become peak performance, right? So I think you can have a high performer and peak performance.
Yeah.
High performer is someone that's doing well in just fitness, well in just business.
Yeah.
But a high performer to go peak performer needs to have those traits then done in everything. So they need to have a lot of discipline, a lot of structure with their work, with their finance, with their health, with their family, with their relationships, with their networking, with their physique. And I think peak performance only comes when you have that. I think high performance you can get so far, and it's kind of where you just kind of stick into one thing. But I think if you want to take high performance in one area up, you actually have to bring all of them up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's what I kind of portray a lot with my clients is, look, you may be already in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
But there's other areas we can go to, or you may already be running a pretty good business,
Yeah.
but just putting more hours into that business
Yeah.
and just getting busy isn't necessarily going to take your performance higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to work on like full peak performance where we're going to look into your health, how your cognitive function is,
Yeah.
and then drive you up. And you've actually got to spend less time in work.
Yeah.
I think put your time into
Bring
other
the other
things
one.
and your actual productivity goes up. It's not how many hours on the laptop.
Yeah.
It's how specific are you with the tasks you're doing that make you growth focused.
Yeah.
So it's a fully well-rounded person, I would say.
Yeah. I love that, because in the end of the day, I totally agree with you. It's like, you and I, we probably have a natural tendency to just like go, and we get shit done. That's a very masculine energy to be in. But, you even just when we talked off camera, like you feel almost different just being in Bali right now from a productivity standpoint because it's less stress, there's more nature and that sort of thing. So I totally agree. Did you like, how long have you been doing what you're doing for right now? And what is sort of like, what got you into like fitness, high performance, peak performance and that sort of thing?
I would say, I think I've been in the industry online only since April 2022.
Okay, so fairly new, yeah.
About
Yeah, yeah.
18 months online, fully online. I did a bit of both before that.
Yeah.
The year prior was just all in-person coaching. So I worked in like a bit of a boutique gym, working again with the high performers, but on a one-to-one basis. But then I was in a position where I thought, I know I want to scale this more from a business standpoint, help more people have more of an impact. And I also knew that from a lifestyle perspective, I wanted to be location free. And you can't obviously do that when you have to physically be there at certain times for clients. So I knew I wanted to make that transition. So I genuinely just made the jump where I was like, right, next week it's happening. Took a big financial hit. I had clients online, but obviously nowhere near the income of what I was doing in person because I was like a well-known coach in the area, charging a lot of money.
Was that back in England or?
Yeah, that was in the UK, near Leeds, Manchester area. And then I took a step back from that. And then I just had all the time in the world that I could then put into online. And then I grew that quite a lot, really. But I'd say in terms of why I got into the industry, it was always because I knew that was probably where I was lacking. I wanted to become fitter. I got to probably 6'4", 6'5" at 16, 15 years old.
Wow.
So I was skinny.
Wow.
Like very skinny.
Okay.
So for me, it was like everyone now says, oh, you're blessed. You've got like the Greek god. You're tall, you're big, you're brown, like whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it's all right now, but it was torture years
Back
ago.
then, yeah.
I used to hate it, like proper hate it.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, it was just lanky.
Wow, yeah.
So
was that the driver back then, like for you to get into fitness?
Initially, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like you go down a route of, you always coach people to come through what you've gone through. It's always like people who are a few steps behind. So my initial driver to get into the industry and coach people was like, I knew the benefit fitness had for me mentally and physically. And then it was like, I was just a physique transformation coach initially. But then because of the gym I then started working in and the environment, I was around more of the the wealthy people who are more successful. And then I started delving into the business side, the high performance side. And I really enjoyed that. I've always had a business mind on me. So everyone who would like walk past in the gym, everyone just like knew me as the guy that was having business conversations with the clients all the time. So we're taking them through a session, but I was like giving them value and they were giving me value at the same time. So I was just quizzing the whole time. Because obviously in person is just a 1 hour conversation. Of course, So that was really good. And then obviously went online. Online initially was more just transformation physique, primarily. Because that was more my message. That was like, look, this is what I've been through. This is the benefits I've taken. Whereas then I was like, the more I worked on my physique, the more I knew it then had with the like the traits that you need for that. I then realized this is having a huge impact on like business and how I operate. So then I was like, right, I want to coach people for like what this can actually do for your life. So it went from let's get into shape to let's get into shape and you can reap the rewards, which might make you, you know, more driven. You might have a bigger vision for life. You know more's possible when you are more confident with yourself and you think bigger. But I think from there, a few things happened. So there was that, like, my mum got ill and she had like a bit of a health issue. That then made me more inquisitive on, I wanted to find out a lot more about health. So I went down the health route. I then had a health issue myself where, like, after I had my COVID vaccine, I had a massive, like, heart attack, basically.
Wow.
And they were like, oh, you won't be training for 6 months. You probably won't walk for 2 months. And I was like, this was as I was getting into the industry. And then I just went, like, I thought, all right, that's gone. So then I came back and I was like, no, I'm going all out. I was stubborn. So got back into it after about...
What were you there? Were you like skinny then or unfit? Or
I'd already got into decent shape. I mean, I weren't in the physique I am now. I think coming back after that, I really realized, like, you know, you hear people say, I don't have the time or whatever. When I was in that position then and I couldn't work on my business, I couldn't work on my physique, it made me more grateful for when you are healthy. Like, that is the only thing that matters. I think when you're ill, then you really realize that health is number one and everything follows. So I started obviously working back on my physique, and then the high performance side, I always wanted to take the business to the next level, provide more value, get better systems. And then I started realizing that you can put all the systems in place, but then what if you're not productive? What if you've got your diary all laid out, right? And you know how to do that. You've watched some expert on productivity, right? But then if your head's still not firing, why is it not firing? Maybe it's because you're having 150 gram carbs post workout, and then you're trying to work straight after it. So then I was like, right, how can I set up my nutrition, my training, my lifestyle to operate at the highest level, to get in the best shape and optimize health all together? So it was like cognitive function, health, and physique together, all to drive me forward in all areas of life. And that was, it just evolved really. So it went from like physique to health to high performance. And then now I'm obviously embedding that with clients. Because how I've got my life set up now is class. Like, I love it from a lifestyle perspective. But then I know that if I've got a task to do, it gets done. And honestly, that's just nutrition, a lot of it. Like, when getting in shape can be unhealthy, can't it? Like, you can, if you take it the wrong when you go bodybuilder route, like, you can be very unhealthy. You can also have very low cognitive function. So it's like, right, how can we get the fitness, but also get the mindset in place? So, you know, it's good to have a goal with your physique and achieve that. But then what about when your vision expands? What about when you're getting more done and you actually turning over more in your business? And we've got a lot of, like, a track record with clients who get in the best shape, then they start businesses, and then they get in 10K months within a few months. Or, you know, business owners who are doing 7 figures and then they're getting another 10-20% turnover 16 weeks in. It's crazy. Just from how they're thinking, how they're operating. So it did evolve from why I got into it. It was just insecurity on how I looked. Now I'm just like, I just want to think better. I want to do better. Just become the best I can be.
I think, you know, that's a what we say, it's a common trait for a lot of people. You know, everybody wants to be the best version of themselves deep down, you know what I mean?
100%.
But, you know, also, as you're saying, like, it came from a point of like insecurity, really, you know, and it's a little bit the same thing as you and I, we talk with the people we meet first time before they become a client. It's like, I just want to get rid of this, or I'm not comfortable with the way that I'm looking at it, the way that I'm feeling right now. So take me through, like, what are you kind of like doing with this? Like, let's say he's 30 years old, he's 40 years old, he's in a corporate job, or he's maybe an entrepreneur or a business owner, and he's 10 to 15 kgs overweight. Yeah. How do you rapidly get a body transformation in a guy like that while still keeping up with the cognitive and like the performance and giving him energy and more mental headspace?
Yeah, so there's a lot of aspects we look at. Do you know what? I actually start with mindset, because no matter how well you program someone, anything, their training, their nutrition, the lifestyle factors, if they're not in a position where they have full commitment from their end that they need this, and this isn't going to just get them in shape, make them more confident, but it is going to improve how they work. I'm like, look, if you're focused on your career right now, you can't see this as, if I have time, I'll get it in. You have to see this as part of your work day. This is part of your self-development, which will improve your work. So just getting them in the mindset that this isn't like a if and when, this is happening, it's a non-negotiable. So I square that out from day one, and then you get committed clients locked in and they get the results. Because a big part about getting results with anyone, right, is actually making them get the result, working with them, motivating them, getting the mind in the right place. But then from an actual setup standpoint, I'm very big on, look, this has to work for you. I don't want this to be a 12-week dive down, yo-yo back out, and you end up worse than where you were. Because that is, I mean, you can lose weight really quick doing that, can't you? But if you have something that's unsustainable and you do that, a lot of people go back the other way and get eating disorders and stuff like that. So I'm like, look, if we truly want to operate at the highest level, take you to the best physique and career, this needs to be like a constant linear development, right? So, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. It has to keep going. So it has to be sustainable. I want to know everything about their routine at the moment, their lifestyle, their current setup, if they've got commitments. And we actually help plan and structure their diary with them. So we're like, look, logistically, how often can you train in a week, which we can actually commit to, and we can plan this into like a Google diary. Then I'll look at them and go, right, logistically with work, how many meals could we get in? And let's say they go, oh, doesn't matter, 6, 7. We go, right, okay, we can just optimize for you. If someone goes 3, we could go, okay, we've got time for 3 meals, because they may have, work blocks where they can't interrupt that with food. So we could go, okay, 3, but then I may look at them and go, you're 250 pounds, but so we're going to need more than 3 servings of protein in the day. So I might be like, right, we can have 3 main meals, but then we may have 1 or 2 snacks of protein, right? To keep that digestion in and get all the protein we need. So just making it so that we are set up for success from the start. We know what they can logistically do, training, nutrition, everything they like, everything they don't like. As much information as we can gather, sometimes taking blood tests or methylation tests, so we can see, where they're deficient, where they might have intolerances. And then we can just optimize for them from there with their nutrition, build that all out. So every time they look at their nutrition plan, they go, logistically, I can do this. Also, I like everything on there. And 2, now I don't have to think about, and 3, sorry, now I don't have to think about anything. It's just going to make it easy. So we have some clients where it may be they're prepping it themselves. They may have a chef that's prepping it. It may be a meal prep company. And then I would go source them a meal prep company. Find, right, this is the companies that you've got near you. And there's these meals. Bed them in, and they may have one that they cook themselves. And I would base it off the remainder macros from those meals. So there's so many ways to skin a cat, right? Yeah. So we've just got to really make it so sustainable. It takes the busy people, right? So we've got to take all the thinking away from them. I think a lot of people go to a coach. You'll have experienced this probably on consults before if you've spoken to people who have had a coach before, and they'll be like, oh yeah, it was just hard work though. Whereas our job as high performance coaches and physique coaches at the same time is we've got to make this easier for you. We've got to save you time. We don't want you necessarily tracking on MyFitnessPal all day. We want to just provide you with something that you can do, you can commit to. And as long as your mindset's in the right place, which we'll help you with, you can do it. In terms of how I'd set up their nutrition, real simple things, I would go around 1 gram of protein per pound of of lean body mass. Obviously, client dependent, we may tweak, but as a general rule, people can't go wrong. I would probably go 1 gram of fat per kilo of 1 gram of fat per kilo of body mass, and then I would then make the carbohydrates from the rest. So protein first, fat second, carbs last.
Yeah.
And then depending on how someone's responding from that nutrition, we could amend from there. Regarding micronutrients and stuff like that, we program that around obviously what that client's deficiencies are and stuff like that. But as a general rule, nail the protein, 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass.
Yeah.
Fats, 1 gram of fat per kilo of body mass, and then carbs make up the rest.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Training wise, it depends on the goal,
Sure.
right? On how you break that down in terms of like, look, where are your proportions right now? I don't just want to make someone a smaller version of themselves. We want to kind of build a physique. We want to add tissue whilst driving them in, and then go from there. So there might be a mixture of HIIT, list cardio, or it may be just straight resistance training with step target. It's very specific to the individual. But the goal is we only work with people for a result. They come in, every single person will get a result. Yeah. And then we take it.
Love that.
Take it from there.
So what are some because again, in the end of the day, you and I be very aligned on it has to be sustainable. It has to be something you can stick to long term. It's habits, it's routines. But, let's say this was just taken completely off camera right now and someone listened to it and be like, hey, how can I get some quick fat loss?
Yeah.
Like, how can I actually get in shape and lose fat fast? What would be some tricks and things you like manipulating when your class diet or you're training to speed up that like fat burning process? Like, what are some things you would do there?
Yeah, 100%. So in my opinion, if we're talking about extreme fat loss, but not just from a physique standpoint, because we want to keep performance right, mentally especially. Yeah. There's a few different ways you can do it. If you were going like bodybuilder physique approach into a photo shoot and you needed rapid fat loss, I would tweak how I'd approach it slightly. But if we're talking about with clients I'd work with mainly, I would just genuinely just pull carbs right out. Yeah. I would be like, right, I want to keep fats in, roughly where we discussed a moment ago, at 1 gram per kilo of body mass, because fats are going to help with, one, they're more satiating, they're going to keep your hunger hormones in a better position. But then also from a hormone perspective, testosterone, like it's much better for you and with your gut health as well. So I would be looking at nailing the protein, nailing the fats. And if we needed rapid, I'd be like, look, let's put more list cardio in, push steps, and just drive carbs out altogether. And then if we really needed every so often, maybe every 10 to 14 days, we could just implement a higher carb refeed day to replenish that glycogen and just give them that boost. But in desperate measures, if we've got a tight timeline, I would just be saying, look, we don't need the carbs. We genuinely don't.
Yeah. And you think people like they could like, because I'm the same, bro. In the beginning, I want fast results for clients, and they're happily excited about it. And sometimes it's like they got to get used to it because mentally they're like, carbs. Where's my carbs on the plate? And you and I are the same. You know what I mean? Like, I want some carbs, but then they figure out like a week or two in, I'm like, fuck, my energy is actually up. And I'm losing weight, and then they get excited, So, So you mean that? That's fine.
Yeah, 100%. And I would just obviously in terms of food volume, I would just be looking at pushing veg portions up quite a bit. Yeah, because they'd be surprised how much food you can have, right? Like I've had 2 meals so far today. Both have just been veg, protein, fats. Yeah, and I mean they've both been platefuls just from veg. So it's just mindset. I feel like society embeds a lot of not very good things on people. Yeah. Whereas if they almost just forget everything that's been programmed to them and they just actually say, look, let's just do this. You don't have to have Cheerios for breakfast and you just crack on. Yeah. They're going to get results. If you think how you've always thought and you listen to what everyone else is listening to, which is always around low performance, you're going to get better results. I've always been quite stubborn in the way that I go the opposite to everyone else. Yeah. So, it could be a multitude of ways. It could be everyone's going here now to work from now. Right, I'm going to go that way. Yeah. But I've always been the same in terms of in life. I've known from a young age. I knew the whole school thing for me weren't going to get me where I wanted. But that's not to say education doesn't. I invest a stupid amount into education. I just don't think the education from what everybody gets. And like, look, if everybody has access to this information, that's not going to get me anything different to anybody else, right? So I don't know how I kind of figured this out. I think maybe because my dad did pretty well and he was self-employed, didn't really do anything at school. I probably just had it in the back of my mind from a young age, but I've always gone the other way. And I think the same with how you approach everything. You know, if you want to have a freakishly good physique, business, lifestyle, you can't be doing what everyone else is doing who doesn't have that lifestyle. Yeah. You've got to go the other way, find out what the minority are doing, listen to people, work with coaches, work with mentors in high performance who know those secrets and know the mindset you need to have. And just follow and be inspired by those. Just cancel everything else out is really important. It's not that you shouldn't invest in yourself and your education. You just got to be careful with who that's coming from.
Where you're listening from, No, totally. Yeah, so you have it a little bit similar like me. You've always been, inspired and curious about like, hey, what could this become? What could I do? Like, how much can I grow? It kind of like goes hand in hand with, what you do with your clients and that sort of thing. Like, how would you systematically set up a routine for, let's say, a guy there is inspired by looking at someone like you live in Dubai, you have a good lifestyle, you're healthy, you're fit, like it's aspirational for a lot of people. How do you tell a guy your age or whatever older to do, this is what I would do right now to get into a mental routine, a lifestyle routine, a skill development routine, a physique development routine to become a peak performance individual? Like, what would be sort of these traits and character traits you should develop?
So that is actually like a group of people we work with is exactly that. So we work with people who are just genuinely coming for a transformation. That's all they initially think they want. And then they start realizing they're going to take a lot more from this. We then work with the guys who are already high performers, but it's like, right, let's take them to peak performance. But then there are the guys in the middle and girls who are like, Tom, I really want, it may be they want to be in the industry I'm in. They want to be a coach. They want to have my lifestyle. Or they may have their own small business or want to get into it and then build the physique, build the career, which is exactly what you were saying, right? And how I would always approach that is go fitness first. So before we start delving into anything crazy, let's just get you feeling your best. Because I'll speak with some people and they go, oh yeah, my mindset's a 10, but my physique, I feel 2. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm happy with you saying your mindset's a 10, but how do you know it's a 10 if your physique's 2, right? So let's just get your physique to at least an 8. And I tell you now, you'll look back and when you thought that was a 10, you'll rate that a 5. So you don't know what you don't know is the most important piece of information I could say to anyone. And that's not in a condescending way, because I don't know what I don't know for the future, right? And the only way I'm going to find that out is by investing in myself, working with mentors. So getting them in the best shape first, getting their confidence there, their energy, because to influence people, you've got to have energy and you've got to achieve big things. So how do we get energy? Training, nutrition, recovery. And that's why it should be a non-negotiable. So getting them in a position where they've got more energy, getting them in a position where they've got more confidence, getting them in a position where they've got more self-respect and they demand more from themselves. As soon as they get that elite level transformation, they will then be thinking bigger. And I've seen it hundreds of times then where they go, Tom, I've set up my own business today. Oh, we've got 3 clients this week. I'm like, class, in whatever industry that may be. So it would 100% have to be fitness first. And then from there, we have our perform package, and that's then where we take them from transform into perform, where we'd keep working on that, but then we'd start looking more about optimization from a mindset standpoint, from a cognitive function standpoint, from a health standpoint. And then we also have courses in the portal, and we work with people on a one-to-one on our weekly calls on setting your life out for peak performance. So how we would structure people's diaries, making your tasks that you are putting time into actually the most relevant to your growth. And that's with physique. It's also with your health, but with your career. It's very easy to be busy, but not move forward. And I've experienced that before. Whereas now we both know that, you could be on your laptop a little bit less and you may be able to look to a lot of people that you've got a good lifestyle, but you're doing the things that are driving you forward. So then I would really look into them specifically on what they are doing with their life, what deep down their goals are, I would push them on those goals in terms of make them demand even more from themselves. I am very straight talking with clients. I'll say, really, is that all you want? Because I think a lot of people just say what they want based on what they perceive they might be able to achieve, not what they want. Whereas what you actually want, you can achieve. You know, you've thought it, you've just got to invest. You've got to put the time in. And I think a lot of people just don't go for what they want because they fear it might not happen. Whereas you've just got to be all in, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, transformation first.
Yeah.
Always work on the physique. That's going to take your mindset well beyond where it is right now. Even if you think it's elite, it's going to get a whole lot more elite. And then start working on optimization for their lifestyle, for their routine, and then making sure that they've got KPIs in place with their fitness, but with their business, and drive things forward from there. Just productivity focus at that point.
Yeah, love that. So how would you help people that maybe don't know what they want to do? So obviously, you know, get in shape, work in their mindset, to start thinking bigger and that sort of thing. What are some practices that you are talking with your clients around to get more clarity about? I'm in England right now. I'm 30 years old. I just broke up with my girlfriend and I freaking hate my job. What am I doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what are maybe some skills you would say, hey, you know, go and do this or learn this skill? Like, what would be some valuable things they can do like today?
100%. I think number one is your network, who you're spending your time with. I think if you're spending your time with people that have what you don't necessarily want deep down, again, it's the same thing. You're not going to be getting anywhere they're not. You've got to be around people who are on a level, but not even just on a level. I'd go beyond that, because you can have people on your level who aren't going to take you further. I'd say on a level, but also want to be bigger than they are is really important. Or with people way above where you are, where you're almost uncomfortable being around them. That's really important. I know we've had a conversation before that you've been to some big talks or mentorship things, and it's crazy the level of energy they have, right? Again, like there's always levels. So just who you put yourself around, the energy, and it's all good saying get around energy, but first of all, just remove negative energy straight away. People fall into the trap of staying around like toxic relationships, you know, with the partner or just with mates as well. And it's not that you've got to go start pushing hate on people you used to spend time with. You don't have to do that at all. You just take yourself over there and you just focus on yourself. And that then would link into spending more time alone. That's really, which is a scary thing
for most people, you know, that like they don't want to go there.
I used to hate it, really, spending time on my own, I'd say. Not hate it, but I found it awkwardly uncomfortable at times. Whereas now I could just, honestly, it's scary. I think I've become so independent that I'm scared for myself. Like I will just, everywhere I go, everywhere I travel solo. I know people everywhere now from networking, but I didn't used to. So I am lucky now that I could just say I'm off to Thailand, I'm off to Bali, I'm off to Dubai, I'm off to London, I'm off to wherever. And I'll know people there. But I didn't initially, and now wherever I go, I'm just like, I just want to, like, someone will say, do you want to do something? And I'm like, well, my diary says this, and in all honesty, still no. Unless it's productive. So if it's like with high performance individuals who it can be a social, but it can still, you know, you're still going to be taking benefit from that. It doesn't have to be from an education standpoint, but there's a energy, isn't there, around like even if we just went like, for a dinner or a few drinks on an evening, like you would take so much from that in terms of energy. But like when you go into, you know, your work block in the morning, you're like, that's motivating. You know other people are doing well, and it drives you to go again. So spending time alone, but then still making sure you do link back to the network. Just making sure that when you get lonely, you don't fall back into the trap of going.
Or I should like hang out with them, drink just because I'm lonely.
That's the worst thing you can do. And you will get those feelings, won't you, at times where you think maybe I should just hang around with them because you're on your own. But I think you go through the stages of, you'll be around people to level up. You've got to invest in yourself. You'll get lonely. You'll find people on that level. And then you'll want to go again. And then you almost go lonely again. And then, and it's having the balance between that, really. I think finally, beyond network and spending time alone, I And when I am alone, I'm spending a lot of time as well just listening to positive reinforcement. So self-development books, but making notes on it. Don't just listen to books. Actually action what you're reading or listening to. And then finally, your environment, not just from a network standpoint, but a location. Yeah. I think there's a lot of lessons learned when you travel. So I think if you really don't know what you want to do, yes, spend time alone. Yes, try and upgrade your circle, but also just get away, travel, see different things in the world, and go back to places multiple times, because you learn every time you go back, and you'll actually figure out how to do it better, or your mindset will level up. I would say just a combination of those three things, even subconsciously, has leveled me up massively. Yeah.
In what way, like?
Yeah, like even like if I look back to when I was doing well when I was in the UK. But then even when I went alone to Dubai, you're spending a lot of time alone. At the start, it felt a bit like
weird, yeah. Like,
and then all of a sudden, you just want to go. Like it may be a Saturday night, and you're like, you know what? I should leave my laptop alone. I'm gonna go to the mall, walk around. I'm gonna go for dinner on my own. Yeah. And I just love that. Yeah. And I actually had a client over from. She came over to Dubai for a photo shoot recently. Yeah. And she messaged me and she said, "Oh yeah, I think she had a few days like spare after." And I was like, "Oh, go for dinner. Like, go for dinner somewhere. Like, I can meet you tomorrow to go out with her after a shoot." But I was like, "Look, today I'm busy, but just go for dinner. Like, explore." And she's like, "Oh, I don't want to. Like, I should save that for when I'm with my friends." I'm like, "No, honestly, just the best thing you can do is just go." Yeah. And making that jump, like everything that you find uncomfortable is gonna push you so far. Yeah. And not even in a way that you'd think. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I think that the removing yourself from the environment, I think the hard part for most people is to think differently in the same environment where they always have been.
Yeah, you can't expect that from yourself.
Like even you probably even feel when you go back to the UK, right? Like I've been living outside for 8 years now. Every time I go home and I sit around the big family, we're gonna have the Christmas thing. Like you feel almost like that little boy again, 22 or 16 years old.
You feel a bit alien, don't you?
You just feel like it's literally you feel a physical thing in your thinking. It's like, and it's not even like on them or anything. It's just your environment, and you remember the walls, and this is where you grew up in your room. Like you just think differently there.
It's so strange. It's so strange. I even notice as soon as I land in the UK now. Let's say my mum picks me up from the airport, right? Yeah. Like I only go back now to see family. That is it. I will not spend time there other than with family. And she'll pick me up from the airport, and we're just driving back down the motorway, and I'm just looking around. I'm like, even though I'm in a car, right? I'm looking around, just like the energy is different in this country. I'm like, I don't like it. So I'm like, right, I'll stay inside. I'll get the most out of being with my family. Yeah. But I just don't want to do anything. It's just a strange energy, and it's not dissing anyone in the UK, because I used to be that, and when you're there living there, you don't know that. It's just normal. Yeah. But when you leave it, you get uncomfortable, and then you reset your baseline. It's very strange going back.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So what would you say, because what were you doing before you did personal training?
So when I was younger, around 17, 18, I was in golf. So I used to live in Marbella for a little bit. Again, alone. That was another good thing for me. Right. I learned a lot just living alone, and obviously discipline, just training. So we had training from like... So
you played golf?
Yeah.
Professionally?
So I was off like...
High level?
Yeah, I was off like +1.
Oh, wow.
So that was what I was thinking I wanted to pursue when I was younger as a career.
So that's what you did basically like when you were younger, like all the way up?
Did that from, I think, 14. I started late.
Okay.
But I've got a personality where if I do something, I'm going hard. Yeah. And I can just hyper focus on one thing. So I'm like, look, if I think I want to do something, everything I do will be towards that. Everything that doesn't make me get closer to that North Star goal it's an instant no. I'm not doing it. So I went crazy on that. And obviously, there's a skill level to get to the top level, but I also just didn't. I liked the concept of being traveling with the sport, right? But what I didn't like were you were almost still employed, because it got to a point where, let's say I wanted to just sign my pro card. To do that, I would then need a sponsor for the Euro Pro Tour, right? Which would be for example, 250K. And I didn't have 250K then. But then people can approach you and they can go, oh, yeah, I'll pay you 250K, but we want X amount of your profits. And then we also want you to show up at all these events. And they just want to like, you know, toy you around.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, well, now someone's controlling everything I do and don't do. And I was like, and then obviously, yes, you get to see a lot of the world, but you're not free, because if you're not playing, you're not earning. And I was like, my dad had a business, but he again was tied to a location. I was like, there must be some way you can be successful and have an impact and get where you want to get without physically being tied. So I was like, this is why I need to be in the online space. As well, I got to the point where I started finding with golf, I started spending more time in the gym than I did golfing. So I got into the gym through S&C with golf. But it was more around like the power, the strength. Whereas then I was like, oh, I actually kind of like the physique side of it. So for me, it was really good and I liked it. But did I then feel like it was something that was something I really, really wanted to do? I figured out as I matured it weren't. I knew I wanted to use my brain more. I wanted to be more into business. So yes, that would have probably been a faster route to success if I'd have put that level of effort in and continued it. That would have been good. So I came back because the next move for me was get a sponsor. And
How old were you there?
I spent, I think, 2 winters or something in Marbella.
So you're like, what, 16, 17?
I think 17, 18 maybe.
What were you doing work-wise? Was that your job? You were paid for that?
So college paid me a bit of money. It weren't much money. And then funded. But I weren't really taking any income at that point. So not really. I think you could win tournaments and get like a grand or something, but you weren't.
But you're sort of like, you're in the college, you're in the school, like it was paid.
I was doing that whilst at college. So college put money towards it.
Right.
I think anyone that was on like international level, they just fund, which was good to be fair. And I obviously didn't have to go to college for most of it.
Yeah, that's good though. Did you have a normal job like in 18, 19, 20? Or?
Yeah, so when I was, I think maybe from 15, I did a job as a waiter for a bit. After like 2 months, I thought, nah, not worth my time. I was like, in a non-arrogant way, I know you got to start from the bottom, but I was like, nah, I'm better than this already mentally. Went to the golf thing, obviously, whilst I was away in Spain. I didn't have a job out there. It was just full on, and they obviously it was compete or train. Then when I came back, and in the bits whilst I were back, I worked for my dad's business, which was in engineering, did that part-time. And that was good. I got good at that job. Obviously, with it being my dad's company, it were my granddad's. It would have been something that I was in a position to take over, and I would have been very, very financially free. You know, they were very successful. However, again, for me, I realized at that point money weren't what I wanted. I wanted freedom. And I wanted to do something that I actually loved doing. So I asked myself the question. It was when COVID hit. So I was doing that job. That actually went full time. And then COVID came and I was like, this isn't what I want to do. So COVID was like the best thing ever for me. And I was like, I can't be doing this for the rest of my life. Again, it was, some of the people were around. I think it was a lot of low negative energy. And I didn't like the environment of everywhere I was working. So I was like, I need to do something online and something that I love. So I just decided basically, I was like, told my parents, I was like, look, I know you probably thought I was going to take this over. I know you thought I was going to manage this, whatever, but I'm quitting. And they were like, what the
tough.
fuck?
Yeah, that's a tough
That was hands down the hardest thing I've ever done. And people could probably say, oh, it's easy because you were working for your parents. Honestly, if I just worked for someone else, it would have been an easy walk away. It was awkward. I was still living at home. Obviously, when I quit that, I had no
like,
income.
fuck off out.
They were like, honestly, they respect.
Were they upset or they were respecting?
It was like, no, they were upset. I think it came out in anger, but they were just upset. And also probably feared like, Tom, have you lost your mind? Like, what the fuck are you going to do, Tom? Honestly, this was still in COVID. And I was like, I'm quitting my job. And obviously I had no income. And then I basically said, look, I'm quitting, but I basically said from the very start, I laid it out. I was like, look, I'm going to quit. I'm going to become a PT. I'm going to get paid a load of money doing PT. become the best PT in the area, and then I'm going to become an online coach and I'm going to live in Dubai. And I said that word for word.
Yeah. Did you already plan that there? Did you already like, I'm going to do online?
I just knew what I wanted to do from the very start.
Yeah.
Now my vision's expanded 10 times. Right?
Yeah.
But that initial goal of, I just want to be in a position, I was even thinking a 5-year goal of, I want to be in a position where I could do that. I had no idea how the fuck I was going to do that. No idea. But I was like, I'm going for it. I'm in. And there's no way it won't happen. It's just when it happens. So I jumped. That was the hardest thing ever. It was awkward as fuck with my parents for a long time. And then
make your own breakfast, son.
Yeah. So it were, but I think it was just more out of fear. Like, I think they thought I'd just lost my mind.
Yeah.
So I did that. I hadn't even qualified as a PT at this point. So then I had some money saved. I did my PT course. I did it fast. I did it in about 3 weeks. And I was like, right, I need to just fly through this as fast as possible so I can get into a gym. This was like November time. And then I'd fallen well. I'd talked my way into a very, very nice gym with no experience, no clients. And I was like, look, I influenced them. I sold them the dream, basically. I was like, look, I'm not here to mess about. I'm here to get results. Had no CV behind me in the industry, but I were investing in myself straight away. So I was meant to start there, I think on like the 4th. It might have been like the Monday where it fell after New Year. Went in. I signed up that day. I had $1,000 in my bank, and I put I think it was 989 into a mentorship, and that was on a month. That was a 6-month recurring job. 6-month recurring course with a mentor. And so it was basically $1,000 a month. I had $1,000. I drained myself, and then I was going into work, and I'd gone straight in on I weren't working for the gym. I was self-employed.
Yeah. So you had to pay rent.
So I had to pay rent. Yeah. And I also had no income. I weren't getting a salary for shifts. Yeah. So
you still lived at home there by the time. Yeah. So that's good though. Yeah. At least you didn't have to sleep in the street.
Yeah, exactly. So I went balls deep, and then I went in the first day, and I was speaking to people, trying to, I was the most nervous person ever. Yeah. Like, I was in a gym. I weren't even in the best shape. Yeah. Like, I barely had a rig at that point, right? So I was in there, and I was just eager to learn. I was watching what the other PTs were doing, and it was a good environment to be in, to be fair. They were helpful. And then I walk in on the second day, and I'd been in there 10 minutes. I look up at the news, and it was like COVID lockdown again. Oh, no. Instantly, gyms close. Wow. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I was just thinking, how am I going to go home now? Like, my mum's going to be like, what the hell? Yeah. So I went back, and I was like, right, I'm going to make this happen. I'd already, on that first day, I'd got one client, and they'd paid me a block. I was only like £35 an hour at that point. They might have paid me 350 quid. Yeah. So I was back up to like 300 quid. Yeah. I then, obviously, we're in lockdown. I took 2 dumbbells and a barbell home from the gym. Yeah.
Bro, I did the same in Melbourne back then. Yeah.
So that's all I had. So thank you to the gym owner for letting me do that.
Yeah.
And it was snowing. It was like -3 in the area. And I was just outside, and I had, no one even knew me as a PT, because it went like I'd been a PT for 5 years, and I was like, right, we're going to be doing it outside. I basically put on my Instagram story with like 800 followers. Yeah. I'm going to be doing one-to-one PT sessions outside, and like I didn't really think anything would kind of go, and then odd, things, whatever. And then I started sharing when someone came, like odd friends I'd do really cheap, like or free, and I'd share it on my story when I was coaching them. And then that started snowballing, and within 2 weeks, I think I made 3K. And I was like, oh, this is good. And then I started using that money to go to the supplement shop, because COVID, all the deliveries and everything was rubbish, right? And people felt like just locked in. So people were actually enjoying and thinking, you know what, I do want to go out. I do want to get in shape. I do want to do something. And a good way to socialize. So that was gaining interest. I think in my first month, I may have done 4K. Yeah. And I was just like outside with no gym. Yeah. Which was really good, just from word of mouth. But then I was going to a supplement shop, I had a trade account. I'd managed to get a trade account. And I was buying supplements at like half price. And then to all my clients, I was like, look, whey, creatine, boom. Yeah. And then just sold them all. And then I was like, right, for every like 4 sessions here, I'm then making another 50 quid. Yeah. So I was like, right, that's another way to make income.
Yeah.
Then I decided, right, I'm going to use this money. I'm going to order some really smart gym clothes from America.
Yeah.
And then I took them to a local place and got them badged with my PT stuff on.
Yeah.
And then they were like 200 quid, Gore-Texy jackets. They were decent stuff, right? I wanted to look the part from the get-go. And then I had like multiple clients being like, I like that. Can you get me one?
Yeah.
And I had like no idea what I was doing. I was like, well, I ordered it from America and then I've just got it badged.
Too much, yeah.
I was like, this is too much. And then I'd be like, it might have cost me like 175 quid, this jacket.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, yeah, of course. And then they were like, how much? And I'd be like, oh, 290.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, can you get me two? And I'm in my head, I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Did you just say two? And that night I'm straight on ordering it and taking it down and give it him like a week and a half later.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I just went in hustle mode. I was like, right, sell supplements, sell, clothes with my badge on. Yeah. It's like, why the hell would someone want my badge? Like it was all just surreal. Yeah. And then coach, and then obviously as I started getting more income then, it was all about, right, what courses can I do? What mentors can I work with? What physique coach can I get? And I just went absolutely relentless on investment. Like I just spent everything back
to yourself. Yeah.
100%.
Love that.
Working with very good coaches from the start, working with mentors, and then really just took it from that.
Love that, bro. That's a good story, man. It's in the end of the day, I think, what did they say? I was doing another podcast with James, like, what is it? 9 out of 10 people wants to be led and only one person actually want to lead,
That's interesting.
Kind of, and I think in the end of the day, it's what you're describing there right now is great. It's very inspirational, and there's a lot of people that we get inspired by that. What would you say is the number one thing, like entrepreneurship, or just like the last 2.5 or whatever years we're on right now, 2 or 3 years now? What has that taught you? What would you say is the number one thing that you could maybe tell yourself 3 years ago, quitting your job there?
I think, bang on. So initially, say yes to everything and do not look too deep. I say this to a lot of clients who I'm like, look, let's just get a transformation first. Don't run before you can walk, I think is really important. And some of my mentors told me that, and that really helped. Because when you've got that entrepreneurial mindset, or you're working with someone who's not built the business yet, but they've got that mindset, and I see that in people. I'm like, this was me, itching to get going. And they just want to do everything, right? And it's frustrating when you're in that position and you have that level of mindset, but you've not accomplished anything yet. So I think it's really good that you work with a coach or a mentor who has been through what you want to do, and say yes to everything in terms of workload and networking opportunities. Say yes to that. Go to every event, get around every potential client, get around everything that you could learn from, and just hustle hard. My PT hours when I got back in the gym, I'd do 4 a.m. till 6 a.m. at someone's house. That was like 2 minutes down the road from the gym. I'd then drive
straight
to the gym, have a 6 a.m. session. I'd do 6 till 11. I'd then have an hour and a half off to eat and train, and then I'd go like 1 through till 10 p.m. And I killed myself. If someone said do that now, I'd be like, I could not work that hard. And I did that 7 days a week.
That's physical, bro, and that's with 20 different people.
Yeah, it was. It was like 12 people minimum a day, but a lot doing double sessions and stuff like that. It was just like mentally, physically taxing. I couldn't genuinely do that. I mean, if I was in a position where I had to, I would always do whatever it takes. But it was
looking
hard.
Back,
So it's all about early days, hustle. Just do everything you can. And then as you start building your income, then you've got to get much more specific with, right, what's getting me a return here? And then get very good at one thing. Once you start that business, you decide what it's going to be, hyper focus on it, and don't say yes to everything else. Then you've got to flip the objective. You've got to go, right, now this is what I've got to get good at and start doing it. I know early days I started earning some money, and then I was seeing someone else earning money in that. And when you're entrepreneurial, you start thinking, oh, that's another online business I could do. That's another one. They've done well in that. Whereas the secret is you could sell this table. You could sell flip-flops. You could sell coaching. and you could become a multimillionaire in any of them if you just got very good at it.
Yeah.
So once you make that commitment in terms of what you're going to do, just hyper focus on it and then get very specific with what tasks you're doing. Set KPIs and set big KPIs, and then make non-negotiables that would make it unrealistic for you not to hit. I think that's really important. I think people set goals, but then they get very output, as in goal focused, and then unhappy. Whereas if you set a goal, don't just set it, really then understand, right, we've done good so far from hustling, but now we need to get hyper focused. What's going to do that? We set this big goal, and here's 5 things I must do every day. Maybe it's 8, right? And if you were to do all of those things every day and just focus on them, it would be unreasonable for that stupidly crazy goal that doesn't seem real. It would be unreasonable for that not to happen if you did that. Yeah. So hustle hard and then work smart with non-negotiables, and it would be unreasonable not to.
Bang, that's the recipe. Last question for you, my friend. What does the word power means to you?
I like that. So I think you're probably better at answering this question. Do you know what? Power for me is authority. Yeah. I think it's respect. I think if you want to be powerful, you have to have both of those. And a big part of that is you've got to look the part. You know, you've got to walk in a room straight away. People might not know who you are, but straight away they almost want to walk over or say something to you. They see you as the high testosterone authoritative figure, right? I think that's really important. And then I think the ability to influence and lead is really important. And having just like an essence and an energy about you that just gives off power, for sure. So I think you've got to have the physical look. Yeah. You can't be powerful in my mind, no matter how good your mind is. Yeah. If you look like someone that doesn't mean business, you will not be, you know, and it could work both ways. You could be fat and out of shape. You could just be skinny and look almost like a bit nerdy. I think like you've got to have just a presence. Yeah. All starts with presence. Yeah. So, you know, getting in shape and high performance isn't just about the fat loss. It's about building muscle and building like a physique where you look good and you look authoritative in your shirt, right? Yeah. That's really important. And then also just having the mindset where you know your confidence comes from what you're doing. Yeah. You know you're putting the inputs in, because again, that comes off as an aura. When you walk in a room and not only you look good, but you give such a confidence when you know you're doing everything you need to do to get where you want to go. I always say when people ask me where my confidence comes from, it doesn't come from where I am now. It comes from me knowing that I will get where I want to go, and I know that's a big place because I know I'm doing the inputs today, and I know I've done them in the past. So it's going to be unreasonable for me not to achieve that. Yeah. And I think that combined physical with your mindset is going to be huge for giving off the essence of power. That's right, my man. You said it right. Yeah. Tom, my friend, appreciate it, all right? Appreciate that, mate. Thanks for having me on. Thank you so much, man.